Shreveport Police Sergeant Rod Johnson. Hey, Sergeant Rod, how are you this morning?
Good morning. How are you?
So the latest on the man, the feller.
The Hamburgler.
We've dubbed him the Hamburgler. A lot of restaurant burglaries, robberies, etc. over the last couple of weeks. And it looks like you might have the guy in custody. What can you tell us?
Through a joint effort with several law enforcement agencies, we were able to identify Edwards and take him into custody yesterday. And there's going to be a lot of groundwork that still has to be done to put these other cases together. But we obviously suspect he's going to be responsible for most of them.
So how did his arrest come about? I know we were stunned to see, maybe you guys weren't, a bicycle was his getaway vehicle?
It was one of the items that he appeared to use, and obviously that's a critical deal that will be involved in the ongoing investigation. I don't want to talk too much about the bicycle because that might compromise further investigation and charges on him.
What led you to him?
It was a surveillance video that, in this particular case, revealed more about his identity, and through that they were able to, working with various agencies, probation and parole, community liaison officers, and obviously our property crimes investigators that have done a huge amount of work over the last few weeks, were able to identify him. That led to us being able to develop enough probable cause to charge him in the Monjuni's burglary.
I have a couple of police officer friends who have told me that there may be an accomplice. What can you tell us? What do you know about that?
Well, I don't want to lead too much into that because that obviously would allow other offenders or those that aided and abetted or were principals or accessories after the matter to begin concealing, hiding their evidence, and know we're looking at them further. But there's always that possibility. And so there is a chance that might occur, that other people could be charged.
Suspect's name is Morris Edwards, Shreveport guy, obviously. What can you tell us? Age, previous
criminal history?
Yeah.
He was released from prison about 2 months ago when this activity started, and he's about 38 years old. And the activity began shortly after his release. It was crimes related to these type that were being committed here.
The prison sentence, was it for similar crimes?
It was.
Oh, wow.
It was. That's my understanding.
So y'all knew about this guy. Obviously, you don't follow around burglars, though. I mean, you got bigger fish to fry, right?
You know, you're limited in your resources and your manpower and problems you can address. Unfortunately, that's just the reality everybody lives in. But when you begin to have these type of crimes, to not get too deep into investigative techniques that would compromise future endeavors, you begin to look at people who are recently released and what they were released for. You begin to go back and backtrack what has changed in the community area really recently that would cause this type of activity to occur. And Morris was one of the things that recently it occurred.
Sergeant Rod, sort of a two-part question. One, does he have a history of violence? And part two is, so far, is he singing like a fish? Wait a minute, that didn't make any sense, but you know what I mean.
Fish don't sing.
On the first part, I simply don't know if he has a history like that. On the second part, I couldn't really go into details on that due to that would compromise his pending charges.
Rod, I'm getting a list of the restaurants, and we're talking about more than 20. What have you got on your list? How many local restaurants are y'all working with now on this?
I would put it as probably that we always look. When you catch someone, you always look as far as you can go at everything that occurred in that area that the offender might be, a suspect in. But I would put the number probably between 20 and 40 that we would be exploring.
Will he be charged with a single crime, or how exactly will that work?
Each incident is a separate crime on its own. It's a different location, a different time, a different victim. So each case would be one single count.
If you were a betting man, how much money are we talking about? That, and most of them, they don't leave much money in their cash drawer. They've all told us that. 20 robberies, a couple of $100 at each one. Any idea how much money?
No, I wouldn't have that idea because that all depends on the individual business and how they store their overnight cash opening drawers. So that could be, and they store it different for different times. If they're looking at the weekend, they might be holding more. They're expecting a big day, and how much they keep in the register up front, that just varies too much for me to make a guess there.
Speaking of weekend, how's about arraignment and bond? Could he be walking the streets, say, by Sunday or Monday?
I do not believe so. My understanding, and I would need to double-check on this, is that he is currently on probation and parole, so since he's caught a felony criminal charge, he would not be eligible. But that would be something probation and parole would have to tell you.
All right. The big question is, still looking for any restaurant burglars, or you think this is 100%, you think this is your guy?
No, we're still looking. We're always still looking.
Until he sings like a fish or you get a conviction, right?
Well, until you positively can identify him and charge him in each one.
Gotcha.
Yes, we may suspect him of that one, but we will still attempt to do something with that case.